It's the Buddy Martin Show. I wish I had better news for you, but what little I know is not good tonight. Are the Gators just bitten by the injury bug? More reports today, nothing from the official source about injuries and all to the same position. Not a good thing to happen. That's the one thing you don't want to happen this time of year. And that is the fact that you don't want to lose players. Now, I don't know how serious they are. We'll have to get to the bottom of this. It doesn't sound like it's debilitating, but it's all wide receivers. On the program tonight, we've got Scott Carter, who will probably say a little about it. Can't say too much. Ali Peek Wilbur's back. Glad to have her, get her take on things. And then we'll be joined by Kevin Brockway to wrap it up on a Wednesday night. I've got information, news, and some stuff you need to know about. Stay tuned to the Buddy Martin Show. Coming up next, Scott Carter will join us. And I'm sure Scott, well, I don't know if Scott's probably happy about the Rays tonight. I mean, they actually won back-to-back games, man. How about that? Back-to-back games. And they had a performance by their relief pitcher, the brand new one, which was encouraging to say the least. So we'll see how that works out. But we're excited about football season being here. That's what we care about around here. So we'll just ask you to stay tuned. Just a moment, Scott will join us, and we will be talking about, what we talk about here. Mostly college football, mostly Florida Gators, and all Buddy Martin.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Welcome to the program. It's not great news tonight, nothing to panic about, but if you haven't heard, it started to drizzle. Now I hope the rain's not coming. These minor injuries, hopefully, are starting to pile up at the wide receiver position. Tre Wilson, one of the guys we talked about, the Wilson and Wilson firm, was dinged on Saturday. Aidan Mizell, one of the promising receivers, has an injury. And now today, the latest, this is awful because he's the guy I had my hopes, riding high hopes on, Dallas Wilson. Now, I don't know the extent of these injuries. I don't think they're too serious. I haven't seen any official statement. This is mostly reported by other news media today. I believe Zach Almaverdi was one of them. And so here's the deal. Don't blame the strength and conditioning program, okay? Please. I've been around the block a few times on this. I've checked with my sources again. I know some top-notch people who were, somebody called me there. So, so Frank Franch, you'll have to call me back. I'm live on the air. And Frank, I'll call you back. Thank you. And the news trickled in about what's happening. Well, let's go ahead and go to the Orange and Blue Room and talk to Scott Carter and see what he's been doing besides watching day baseball. Probably not doing that. Hello, Scott.
Buddy, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm good. The Rays won back-to-back games. Can you believe that?
Well, that's a miracle right there.
It is.
And with the way they played in July. But, they'll surprise us. Maybe I was reading there's a big takeout in The Athletic today about the Rays ownership.
Yeah.
And, he pointed out something. Since 2008, only the Yankees and Dodgers have won more games than the Rays.
That's amazing. Stu Sternberg is getting ready to make a lot of money, billions of dollars. And anyway, but I'm sure nobody cares about that but you and me. Nobody else seems to care about it. But anyway, yeah. So I watched the game today, and they got their new relief pitcher, Griffin Jacks. He was awesome. He struck out he loaded the bases and with a one game, and then he struck out the side. So, so Scott, I know you must have heard about some of this news matriculating down our way. Now more injuries to the wide receiver core, according to what Zach Alberti wrote, quoting sources. I don't know what you know or what you can tell me. It seems like a little bit of a rash of bad luck. What do you know about the latest on Dallas Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, he's got some kind of lower leg injury. I don't think it's going to be anything that, takes him out for an extended period of time, but he's certainly hobbled right now wearing a boot, and we'll see how quick he can get back. I think they're hopeful a couple of weeks. And, I heard your intro there with the receivers. They've had a little bit of a rash here lately, like you're right, with Mizell and Wilson. Obviously, Khalil Jackson's, in last season getting hurt. So it's an opportunity for these young guys, TJ Abrams, Tank Hawkins. Obviously, they got J. Michael Servant from UCLA. So I think he's a good guy to have around. But I'm like a lot of your listeners and a lot of Gator fans. Of all the newcomers on the roster, the one that's impressed me most probably has been Dallas Wilson, from a physical specimen standpoint. The guy looks like he is a heck of a player. We saw a flash of it in the spring game, buddy, with those 10 catches, 2 touchdowns. So, it is that time of year where you're going to get some guys banged up. Hopefully nothing serious. And, every team goes through this. But it does seem like the last week or so, that's been most of the news from camp.
Yeah, and it's such a fresh thing to have these terrific 5-star type guys popping like they are. And it's not just the hype. These guys the best guys who play football on that team are amazed by guys like Dallas. And I think that's the whole thing, is that they're so good at so many positions, including wide receiver, despite having, quote, lack of experience. They got tremendous talent. And so I'm hoping. I was already excited to see Dallas Wilson, but I guess we'll have to wait. But the good news is you're not opening up with Georgia, and LSU. And having those 2 games now look more like a godsend, that they are where they are, because after that, it ain't easy.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those years where if guys are nursing injuries in camp, you might not rush them back as soon as other years when you are opening against Long Island. I would expect, the Gators should be able to go out and beat Long Island with, I don't know about me, you're a quarterback, but I'd take Clay Millen or one of those other guys as long as you got Jaden Baugh back there to run the ball and the offensive line healthy. But, so again, it is a good year to kind of open soft. And hopefully by that time, guys will be ready, and maybe you only play them half a game or something to get them season ready. But whatever the case, I'm sure they'll manage that accordingly. But I just know that I'm sure they're hoping that there's no, that this is just kind of a tough week, that it's not something that becomes more routine as camp progresses.
Correct. And look, I mean, there's a lot of football here to be played, to use that cliche. All of it, in fact.
Yeah.
But I think attitude is important. I think coming off that 4-game streak of winning now, it gives you a taste of it. And everybody wants more. And we're probably over our skis a little bit already on predicting this football team. I know I am. And I know that those first, let's say games 3 through 6 are brutal. I call the scorched earth Saturdays. And that you're just, if you look at it realistically and say, would 2-2 be okay? Because you start out, obviously, with Miami, LSU, and then Miami, and you got home against Texas, the number 1 team. Then you got to go out to Texas A&M, who's vastly improved. So 2-2 would be acceptable, but not great. You'd like to think you'd get 3-1. If you get 3-1, now you got a little time off, and you got a chance to the back half where you might be able to do something. But I've seen predictions all over the place. I say CBS picked actually Florida to be 12th, and one team that's about the top 25 altogether. And the coaches poll, I think, had them at 17. So we just don't know. We're all guessing, aren't we, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, there's very few teams I don't think you're not guessing on going into college football season, unless it's just one of those years where, you've got a dominant program like Alabama we saw in recent years, or I know Ohio State's a lot of people are high on them. Texas getting a lot of preseason love. I think Texas, I think they're a very good team, a great roster, but again, they have a quarterback in Arch Manning who he's still unproven. Until you go out there and play, you just don't know. Yeah. I've been wrong before on some of these guys, and I've seen guys come around that I didn't expect much of and turn out to be a lot better player than I ever expected. So, again, you don't ever know, but it's that time of year where we love talking about this stuff. We love thinking about what might happen. I just know that from watching, I was out there Saturday watching the whole scrimmage or the whole practice from up top, and I was just going to player just with my binoculars, getting a real feel for the roster. And I do think this is the best looking group of players at Florida in 6-7 years. I think they have the talent, but you got to go out there and prove it. Billy Napier said that himself the other day when asked what he thought about being ranked 17th. And he's like, look, there's games to play. We got to go out there and earn it on the field. We can't really pay attention to that. That's kind of where I am at that point. You just got to go play. We'll know how good Florida is. I think by mid-season, we'll know if they're a true national championship, SEC championship caliber team, or if a lot of the preseason chatter was kind of just hyperbole.
Yeah, I think you accurately assess that. And I think the only thing you got right now is speculation. It's all we got to go on. I think I look at things like, injury reports, even I can't tell how bad these injuries are. I don't know. We're talking about attitudes of coaches who seem to be all upbeat. I know coaches are often upbeat in preseason, but it seems like they're a little more upbeat. Billy seems almost confident. That's good. So we'll just base it on that and see where it takes us. You got to play the games. Obviously, we know about all that. I want you to think about this question, and I'm going to come back to it after I do a quick commercial. I've been told I did a lousy job of doing a read commercial on Shane's show about Gator Bait, my own company. And lousy, I'm told by my friends. So I'm going to try to do better. But I want you to think about this. The Netflix series, SEC football, any given Saturday. Okay, it's underway. There's 10 programs. And it started out with LSU and Florida and Arkansas and Vanderbilt. I don't know if you've watched any of it. I have. I want to get your take. If you haven't, I'll give you my thought. And then I'm going to tell you about why you shouldn't get too upset with the strength and conditioning coaches about the injuries. I've talked to some people. I know some people. I think we've got to draw a line there and say, hold on a second. Don't start blaming the strength and conditioning coach. What I tell you all about, none other than Gator Bait. All right, here's the deal. There are specials running right now on Gator Bait that not even I know about, but I know they're on there. Some are discounted. And you got to find out by going to GatorBaitMedia.com and see what you can get. This is not a big box company. We promise never to be clickbait. We're mostly a family. Most of us, like Fansbury, myself, and others on the site. Now we've got some new people. We're excited about Eddie Gilly and Alan Barney. We got a new photographer named Ryan Friedenberg coming this week. So check us out and find out more about GatorBaitMedia.com. We're not a big box company, as I said. We're a family. We like to give you the inside information and let you know how you can subscribe. So check it out. There's a QR code right there. Thanks to Brendan for being on top of that. And you read all this stuff. And I think you're going to want to read all you can because, as Scott knows, you can't get it all from one place. So, all right. Scott, have you seen that series at all yet?
I did. I watched the episode number 2, which is just really on the Gators, last night, just to get a feel for what it was. And it was very well done from a technical standpoint. I think Dan's saying it here on your message. I mean, the footage looked unbelievable. And it's Netflix, so they're making it dramatic with the. They played up the quarterback situation between Mertz and Lagway, made it more into probably like a quarterback controversy than it really was. But I thought both guys handled themselves really well. I was hoping maybe for some more voices. It was really just DJ, Mertz, and Billy. I don't remember seeing many other players or anything. And I thought once they got past the Kentucky game that DJ started, then they just went right to the end of the season. So they, you could tell they kind of got halfway through, buddy, and like, okay, we got to wrap this up, and they did. They kind of rushed to the finish line there. But I thought for what it was, if you're a Florida fan, you love the Gators, you'll enjoy the show. I thought it, put a pretty good light on what the situation was. And but it'll be interesting to see as Netflix does more of these, because I've watched some of their sports programming. I watched the one on Brett Favre recently, and I mean it's got a lot different vibe than the one on the Gators did. I mean, I was a huge Brett Favre fan, but it kind of painted a different picture of him as just a person.
Yeah, that's a good assessment, a very, very fair assessment. I'm going to say, first of all, I don't want to bash them. I think it's good they're doing it. There's some things I like a lot. There's inside footage there that we don't get to see, of practice, of players talking, etc., and watching the growth of DJ Lagway, obviously, and the sadness of Graham Mertz getting injured. And there was some good, intimate relationships, but it jumped all over the place. And like you said, it reminds you of when you watch in the old days, they used to have these games like Notre Dame, and they would want to skip, they taped them and replay them and then say, jumping ahead, Meanwhile, the teams exchange punts and pick up the action in the third quarter. They cut out a whole bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
And I guess we were looking for a little different. I would like to see more about the growth of Lagway, because I could tell that was the thing you could see. You could see him early and see him late and see how he kind of matured. So, but I wish they'd do more, and I'll give it a B minus. Is what I think.
Yeah. I don't think it was the best, but it wasn't bad. It's kind of like we were old newspaper guys. It's like your editor tells you to write a 30-inch story. You write 40, and the next day in the paper, you can just tell the last 10 inches was chopped off. That's kind of what it felt like.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that. That's one thing about becoming a columnist. You never had to get cut.
That's right. That's right.
If Tom McEwen got cut, he'd have fired somebody,
No doubt.
So, speaking of which, I'm proud to say, and I'm probably premature in doing this, we're going to have some news shortly about honoring some sports writers. Were you around? You didn't know Bill Peterson, did you, at all?
No.
But, he was a guy who called them sport writers. That was his thing, called them sport writers. And they're kind of like dinosaurs now, as you know. You just got a little taste of that. You were just past that bunch. But there were some awfully good ones around Florida. And a lot of them had a hand in writing about Steve Spurrier. And Freddie Weaver's got a terrific idea on what to do, something he's going to announce soon about that. And also, I understand there's a big announcement coming about rings. That's all I'm going to say. Rings. Big announcement. So I don't know what I'm allowed to say yet. We'll find out. All right, let's go get Allie and see if she wants to contribute to this program. And see she's back now. She's been partying around, gallivanting around, going places. She and Eric now are on the cocktail circuit. They're the paparazzi people. There she is, Ali Peek Wilbur. What's up, Ali?
How are you guys?
All right.
Hey, Ali.
Well, did you hear the great news?
Which great news would that be?
Dallas is hurt.
Yes, I did, but I would not constitute that as.
Well, I was being sarcastic when I said
sarcasm. You were using sarcasm?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. I'm hoping it's not too bad. That's kind of I don't love when they say they're in a hard cast. Not ideal, but hoping, quick turnaround. I think he has shown, his spring was phenomenal. The beginning of this camp was just like a highlight reel. So hopefully if he really truly only misses a couple weeks, then it won't be that big of a deal.
You hope that, but to get these things going after a while, you feel snake bit,
Yeah, you do.
Think, oh man, come on now. No, not the wide receivers, the ones that we all were so anxious to hear about, and talking about.
Yeah.
But it does happen. And unfortunately, the things you don't want to hear about early in the season are things like that, injuries.
Mhm.
And certainly Florida had enough of that with DJ last year. So I'll ask you what Scott and I were talking about. Did you see the Netflix series?
I haven't watched it yet. I need to watch it.
Okay.
But I've kind of paid attention to the feedback on social media the last, day or two. And it seems like everybody wishes they had put a little bit more emphasis on the comeback portion of the season as opposed to just the train wreck portion of the season. But I'm going to watch it and I'll form my own opinion and, we'll go from there.
And you'll have it on Peek Aside Gator Football.
Sure.
Brandon nicely put up a little QR code there for you.
Thanks,
which you can hear and see often. I don't always know when, but I like it. And we watch it for it. Scott, have you seen the show?
I have. I've seen her show. It's a good show. There's a lot of information there.
Yeah. She's starting to get a lot of notice. Like she was at the party the other night for Tony Barnhart. And it's like, okay, the paparazzi are here. The Wilburs were in town. It was a good night, wasn't it, Alex?
It was a great night. It was so fun. It was a really good time. And the pictures are great from it. I love them.
Scott, you should have been there, but it wasn't my invitation list, so I can't say that. I got blamed for it. But if you didn't hear, well, now you give your version. We saw Danny, and we saw Shane, we saw Chris, and it was just the brotherhood and whatever you want to call it. And there were some writers, and it was a good mixture, wasn't it?
It was a really good mixture. It was a good group of people that really contributed to, kind of the Gator lore, I feel like. And, you and Pat Dooley and Franz all being in the same room is really neat. And I feel like, everything I've read as a child basically was written by one of the three of you. Add Robbie in that mix as well. It was cool. It was a very fun night. Scott, I kept joking that I must have gotten on the wrong text message chain somehow. Like when I walked in the door and there was like 25 people and some of it was Eric and I was like, okay, somebody made a mistake somewhere.
That's a good text message chain to be on.
It is. It's a very good text message chain to be on.
Not true, because Tony actually texted me and said, "Can you give me Allie's address? I want to invite her." And that was from you being on this program with Tony, because you've been on a couple of times.
Yeah, I have been on with him. He's great.
So it was very gracious. And Coach Burger called him the greatest sports writer outside of Florida.
Outside of Florida.
Yeah, that was fun. All right, so catch me up, Allie, on where you are now on this team at this point in time. Are you still very positive about it? Do you feel like that maybe there's a little bit of dent because of the injuries? Are you feeling good about what's being said, what you're reading? Give me your perspective on it.
The injuries, I don't, obviously you don't love when injuries happen, but they're not, when you're battling out there, particularly during this time of the year when they are, just practicing nonstop and hard and trying to prove themselves and win spots, injuries happen. They do. And so I don't think that's any different than any other year. I worry about Lagway, not because I don't think he's healthy, but there's just been so many little injuries that have happened that it makes me a tiny bit on edge. I think it's fair to say for any team that the success or failure of the team is going to come down to the health of the quarterback. I feel like that's a pretty generic statement you could pretty much make anywhere. It feels a little bit, I don't know, more true almost in this Florida situation though, because DJ has had injuries in the past. It makes us a little bit more nervous. Anybody's quarterback could go down at any given moment, and that would change the outcome of their season, especially in the NIL era where there's such a drop off in your number two guys, because anybody that is a number two is taking a NIL deal and going elsewhere, right? So there is always going to be a massive drop off from 1 to 2. And I just, knock on wood that Lagway stays healthy the entire season. If he does, I do think this will be a special season for the Gators. If he doesn't, it won't be, obviously, but that's not a knock on Florida. That would be the case for anybody losing their starting quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. I want to mention, before I do a quick little break in, mention our sponsor. The that I don't think Florida fans should blame the strength conditioning coach
I
of
don't
the
either.
program. And I've double checked myself on this, talking to a bunch of people. Like some people think, well, we're having this injury because high ankle, because of this. And everybody at the highest sources I know, and I have several people said, no, it's not that at all. Take a more global view that the injuries happen. They're going to happen. It's more the law of averages. And sometimes you get more than your share. And like you said, Ali, it's because the injury to DJ that people, the Gator fans are a little bit got the yips. Oh no, right?
Yeah.
So let's not go into that and start blaming people.
Yeah, I don't think that that's a fair assessment at all to blame the strength and conditioning. I think, we've seen, I don't know if you remember, I want to say it was going into 2005. It might have been going into 2007, but you remember where they had like 12 or 13 ACL injuries, and they decided at that point to stop running stadiums right when that happened. And they weren't positive that that's what caused it, but they were trying to look for why are we having so many of this exact injury? Stopped. I think they now run them again, but for a while under Meyer, they didn't run stadiums anymore out of an abundance of caution. And I do think sometimes if you have a ton of the exact same injury, maybe then it's time to kind of look inward and see, is there something that we're doing or not doing that could be a contributing factor? But these are all over the place. They're literally just injuries that happen in a really violent game.
I want to mention this while we still got Scott, and the fact that sometimes injuries can be a good thing. Now, it could be that this may be what we saw last year. Lagway, taking advantage of Mertz's injury, and he had to play, was pressed into action. No better example of that than Kyle Trask. Who knew that guy might not have ever got off the bench if Philippe hadn't gotten hurt? And speaking of which, Scott, is this guy going to ever get a chance? Now they traded for Teddy Bridgewater, and Teddy, he's waiting for his chance. This is it now. Baker Mayfield's willing to give him a chance. Is the guy ever going to play, Scott?
Well, it doesn't look like maybe in Tampa, as long as Baker Mayfield's doing what he's doing. I mean, I can't argue with the Bucs' logic by letting him play. He's revived his career and has rejuvenated that franchise. So it's unfortunate for Kyle, but Kyle's obviously got the right outlook for this with what he experienced in college. He's living his dream. He's making a good living, and we only have to talk to Shane Matthews about what that's like.
Best Shane's job in pro football.
Yeah, Shane always says he had the best job. He didn't have to get hit. He, would be in the whirlpool reading the paper and stuff like all the other guys were doing this and that. So he made a career out of it, and you'd like to see Kyle get his chance.
Sure.
I do think with certain team, I mean, he could surprise and maybe build a career on the field. And but yeah, it's just been kind of the cards he drew, in the NFL.
All right, let me tell you about Meldon Law. We're going to come back and we're going to just talk about the best sports cities, and then we're going to let Scott go and do all the things he has to do to get ready for his big day tomorrow, like chocolate pie and stuff like that. Now, you look good, by the way. You must have been dieting. I wish I could do the same. So, I want to tell you about Meldon Law. They're getting ready to announce a big deal. I guess I can tell you it's going to happen in November. It's going to involve some special commemorations from basketball that you're going to want to be involved in. I'll tell you about it as soon as I'm able to get the confirmation to do it. But Meldon Law does all things like this. They're always underwriting some big deal involving Florida athletics, and many times it involves the band, as it did when he bought transportation for the band members. Meldon Law, of course, as you know, they're in the law business, located in 4 places to serve you: Ocala, Gainesville, Lake City, Williston. And if you need a lawyer, I'd suggest you call them, and if they haven't got the one you need, they'll find you one. Meldon Law, they will not back down. All right, I read this the other day, and I could argue about this all day. I've lived in some of these places. It's kind of a generic reference, one of those talk show questions about what is the best sports city. Sometimes I see these things, I think they're not even close. Who was thinking of it? Who wrote this up? But there's one that came out today. I thought, well, I'll throw it out there and see. All right, this is what the list was, and I'd like to be able to say who did it. I just don't know. I can't remember. This list said top 5 sports cities. All right, here you go. 5 Cleveland, 4 Boston, 3 Pittsburgh, 2 New York, and 1 Los Angeles. All right, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you guys respond to any or all and none of those.
Well, I don't know. The Dodgers are hot. The Lakers are. I don't see LA ever being my number 1 sports city. I always think of New York, Boston, Chicago. Those are the ones where whenever I was just in New York a couple weeks ago, and those New York, the Mets and the Yankees, man. If you haven't been in New York in the summertime in a bar, they watch it like we watch SEC football. I mean, they get into that. And hockey, I just can't see LA being number 1.
It's a joke. Ali?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I understand that it's based on pro sports, but there's no good college football that takes place in LA, at least not right now. And so therefore that automatically disqualifies you from my book, but I guess there's not a New York either. So, but I don't know. I think that I would have put Tampa up there. Maybe not this year, but there's some great sports that happen in Tampa. I mean, between the Bucks and the Lightning, and even, the Rays have their moments. And at least USF is here. We got some other things going on. I don't know. Not an LA or a New York fan, so I'm never going to like that list.
You guys are very savvy, but New York is a great city. I lived in it 3 times, and I can tell you for sports, you talk about passion, the SEC football, try a Red Sox and Yankees series when they're both in contention. I mean, that is amazing. I would live through the Bucky Dent game and all that stuff. And the hockey is just crazy in New York, really. But even crazier in Boston. LA, forget about it. I had a friend who covered USC and covered practices. Guess how many people were there with him? None. He was the only person who covered USC practice. How about that? That's a little different. And Cleveland had its LeBron James era, but please don't bring Cleveland in here in this conversation. Pittsburgh, nah, forget it. All right, so you're right. I mean, Atlanta ought to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas ought to be in there, and Denver ought to be in there. I live there. I know it's a great sports city. You might hate or love Philadelphia, but they do show up and they do have good teams. Yeah. Boston's a great sport. Anyway, so that we kind of agree on that. All right, Scott. Any final thoughts before I let you go? I know you got business that's into, and what are you writing coming up on 40gators.com?
I got some, just picking up the speed a little bit. I've got my first interview with the Secretary of State tomorrow. I've never talked to the Secretary of State.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to Mr. Rubio about his son and their football background.
That's so cool.
Very good. Nice.
Well, I didn't realize he actually played college football briefly.
Did he?
I did hear read that stuff. Where did he play?
It's a school that doesn't even exist anymore in Missouri, and it got shut down. But he's all happy, I think, to take a break from talking politics to talk about football.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
That is great. That'd be great.
Bucket list kind of thing, Scott. That's awesome.
Yeah, just like to kind of. We all know who's hurt. You can only write so many knee injury stories, so I like to venture off into the other places.
Well, you do some good stuff, folks. If you haven't read that, and check him out at 40gators.com. He's our friend, and he does great stuff, and you'll want to know he has a nice feature every now and then. So, Scott, thank you so much for being in the program. Guys. We appreciate that very much.
Have a good night. Good seeing you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Well, we're going to switch it over and talk a little bit about basketball here. Kevin's going to join us, and we've got the schedules out, as a matter of fact. And I'm going to tell you all about the new thing they got going on with these people, which is going to be so cool. First of all, the Spurs is celebrating 4 years coming up, and Tre Wilson will be on tomorrow night. And this is something. This is something also. Titan MRI and Imaging is having its gold anniversary coming up, and you can have a chance to win big. You see this type right there, $100 Spurs Grind Grill giving away. Here's how you enter right there. You check out the information, and they got 7 100 gift cards are give away. And to celebrate Titan MRI and Imaging, of course, you know what they do. They have they're there for you in North Central Florida to help you take care of your needs for any kind of MRI, CAT scans, etc. And they're expanding all the time. Soon to be in Ocala. Titan MRI and Imaging, and congratulations, they're turning 7. All right, let's go talk to our buddy and see what is going on with Kevin Brockway. I'm sure he's up to no good somewhere.
Buddy, I log on to your show and I see Dallas Wilson out for the season. What's going on here? What are you peddling there? You know,
who said that? Nobody said that.
It was something. It said like, or is Dallas Wilson out? It's a 2-week injury.
No, somebody was asking, I think, in the comments how long will he be out?
Oh no, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't put that out. No, no. Well, I mean, you can weigh in on that. Go ahead. We did say it's a rash of injuries. We've had several discussions tonight. You're welcome to join. Ali tried to convince me it's a strength and conditioning coach's fault.
I did not.
I know. We just shot that theory down, and based on my information, people I know in the business who are very qualified said that's laughable. So give us what you got, Kevin.
No, I mean, I think that, probably bad luck more than anything with regards to that. And, I mean, I don't know, you do deal with heat and humidity here. So that factors into it for sure, of course, with muscles and, some of those, soft tissue type injury things. Cause, we saw that Tre Wilson, got hobbled a little bit over the weekend, but fingers crossed, everything will be okay by Long Island. And even then, I mean, you've got a little wiggle room early in the season with regards to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Alex said earlier. I believe, maybe it was Scott. I figure maybe it was Scott said you said it, Ali. It's because you did it. You're arguing a little bit. In golf, they got the yips when you shank or whatever. You get a little bit worried when you lose your quarterback, like they lost last year on injury. Yep. And then you think, oh no, here we go again, and it's nervous time. But how good does that schedule look now, Kevin?
Which one, football or basketball?
Well, the one that just the football schedule. Don't have the basketball schedule later. The football schedule with LIU and South Florida.
Got a little bit of a pad there that you can.
Of course, yeah, no question. But you do have that 4-week stretch, buddy. And as you know, the USA Today poll came out, or US LBM poll, right? The coaches poll came out. And you're talking about week 3 to week 7, right? Number 9, LSU. Number 10, Miami. Bye week, number 1, Texas. And then number 21, Texas A&M. So 4 straight ranked teams after those first 2 games. You do want to get some things squared away in those first 2 games so that you're really prepared for that stretch.
Yeah, well, I think they can be grateful. So now we're going to go over this a bunch of times between now and then. I already have thousands. Ali and I have it over at least 500, which is that games 3 through 6, which I call scorched earth Saturdays. If you can get those first 2, and you should, you're 2-0. But now you got a little issue going on here. You're going to go on the road, play LSU on the road, play Miami. You got Texas, number 1 team at home, and then you got to go out to play Texas A&M on another trip to Texas. What would be a reasonable? What would be number 1 upside, downside, the floor and ceiling of those 4 games, Ali? What would be the thing that you feel like that would be? What do you think they have to do? 3-1?
I think the ceiling's 3-1. I think 2-2 is probably maybe more likely, but I think 3-1 is totally doable. I think figuring out how to beat Texas would be incredible, but that seems like the biggest long shot to me. I think Miami and Texas A&M are 2 wins, and I like that Florida has LSU early. I feel like they sometimes take a little while to get things figured out. Obviously, Nussmeier is back, although there was the injury rumor about him today too circulating. So you're going to have some familiarity at quarterback, but they are replacing a lot of other positions. So we're going to play them. They're probably going to be stronger at the end of the season than they are at the beginning. So I kind of like where we get them, but it is on the road. and it will be at night, and that's a tough place to play. So, which is why I say 2-2 is probably slightly more likely. If they lose 2, it's Texas and LSU in my mind. If they win 3, then they've figured out how to beat LSU, I think.
Kevin?
Yeah, if they can get out of it 3-1, I think you'd be ecstatic. If they get out of it 2-2, I think that would be okay. You don't want to be 1-3 in that stretch. I think that's kind of the key. Marcel Reed, I was watching some throws in a recent workout. He was really struggling. Might have just been a bad night for him. But, the new Texas A&M quarterback, it's going to be interesting to see. Now, listen, he caught Florida by surprise in the swamp, played very well, and was a dual threat guy. But, when you look at the 4 quarterbacks that you're facing in that stretch, obviously, you start with Nussmeier, right? And then you go to Carson Beck, then you go to Arch Manning, and then you go to Marshall Reed. So, I think you've got 4 guys that are going to be, fairly impressive. And, Florida, you keep your fingers crossed that DJ Lagway will survive through that stretch as well. But I think, only having 1 at home, I think you probably wish that you had more of those matchups in the swamp. But certainly there'll be revenge on the mind for Miami. I was watching a Netflix doc yesterday. And,
let's talk about that.
How like when you look back at how poorly they played in that game, you would like to think that with, the number of players that are returning, they're going to want to show that they're much better than that against a Miami team that, by the way, doesn't have Cam Ward. They do have Carson Beck. But when you look back at some of the throws that Cam Ward made in that game, it was very impressive.
Ali?
Yeah, I mean, I think that revenge. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they were asking me which was more an important game, the LSU, the Texas, or the Florida game. And I think maybe they threw Georgia in there too. Right, the Georgia, the Texas, the LSU, or the Miami game. And there's differing opinions, but I can see, making the playoff, obviously the Miami game matters the least. But in terms of what's a winnable game, and it would be a good monkey to get off our back, I feel like it probably is Miami. And I think part of that is you're looking at a team that looks kind of similar to you. Coach was hired the same year. You've recruited at about the same clip as each other. And so it's a nice, maybe measuring stick of where you are as a program. And I don't feel like that with Georgia and Texas. They are the standard right now in our conference. And even LSU has recruited better than Florida the last 5 years. So on paper, LSU should beat Florida. But I think Miami is that one that Florida really needs to have, not because it matters, for making a playoff or anything, or it doesn't obviously mean anything in conference because it's not an in-conference game. But I do think it matters. It's almost like a bellwether.
I will say this. I think you'd feel a little better about Miami if it came before LSU. The fact that it comes after second and 2 road games is a little bit because how beat up are you going to be coming out of LSU? I think that's the concern there. Even if you could pull off an upset against LSU, how are you going to come out of that game? Now you got to turn around. Yeah, you come back. You got a week later. I think that's the only concern you would have there. And listen, Miami's got a line of scrimmage. I mean, they've got a lot coming back there on both lines of scrimmage as well. And but their defense obviously at the end of last year was terrible. They've got to get that figured out. Florida should be able to score some points this year against them. I think it's just a matter of if they can stop the run against a good Miami offensive line, and Fletcher's a pretty good back. We'll see how that goes.
Where the LSU game you mentioned, even if you win, and it's true, it's going to be such a mental test. And so, and it's going to be difficult the next week, whether you win or you lose, physically and mentally. But that is going to tell us a lot about what this team is, and have they grown as much as we think they have? If they beat LSU, I think they go to Coral Gables and they win. I think this team is good with the momentum. We saw that carry on for them last year towards the end of the season. But if they were to lose to LSU, can they pick themselves up by their bootstraps and go back to work? Or do they let it, snowball on itself? We're going to learn a lot of things about this team after that game.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. You guys help me out on this. Well, I don't know. It seems like Florida gets no credit for playing a difficult schedule. I mean, I don't know. It didn't seem like they didn't value that as much last year as we thought they would.
Yeah.
Well, no, the national pundits did, I think, and they're talking about it all the year this year.
The
Yeah,
playoff committee didn't value it that much. I don't think. Anyway,
I don't think they did either. I don't think the playoff. That's why you had like an Indiana and
really. I mean, come on.
The playoff committee didn't, but you're talking apples and oranges there because you're talking about Florida not getting credit. I mean, Florida wasn't even in playoff contention. They were
no, I'm not talking about Florida, just Florida, but Florida certainly would be one of them. It's a bellwether. Look, they're playing this lineup, the ranked teams. Number 1, Texas, 4, Georgia, 9, LSU, 10, Miami, 15, Ole Miss, 18, Tennessee, 21, Texas A&M. I mean, look, who plays that kind of schedule?
Yeah, 7 ranked teams. No, everyone recognizes, buddy, it's the best schedule in the country going into it.
Yeah.
And if Billy Napier can get through this with 9 or 10 wins, I mean, it would be really something. And then you probably should consider Florida a playoff team this year. You would hope that the strength of schedule metric would work in their favor. Now, it depends on what happens around the rest of the country too. You got to take that into account. But I think certainly for Florida, if they can win the games they're supposed to win and pull off an upset against a team like Texas that might be number 1 going in that game, then I think you put yourself in really good position come November. But let's not forget too, and I think we saw this on the other side with LSU and Ole Miss last year. You get to November and you're in playoff contention. You even saw it with Miami last year. Sometimes those teams get a little tight. And if the shoe's on the other foot with Florida, it'd be interesting to see how they approach a game on the road against Kentucky, a game on the road against Ole Miss, if they're kind of in that position.
I think Allie's right. I think Florida's a team of momentum. I think they're a lot of things. We saw last year, the 4 games they won at the end of the year. Now, the question is that going to be key turned on or turned off? We'd like to think it's on.
Yeah.
But you get these minor aggravations. They're not minor, these injuries, and it changes things. And Allie, let's talk for a second about recruiting, because even though I like to stay on the subject at hand, which is this season. I can't worry too much about 2026 right now. But given that, it is an indicator of how things are going. It seems as though they've got some good prospects. They got picked up a few more. I don't follow it like you do. Give us a report card, Allie.
I mean, I think Florida's probably going to sit at where they are at in this class until, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks into the season. I think that's when a lot of recruits that are kind of waiting to make their decision will just decide, hey, did Florida start to turn things around, or do I need to, head elsewhere? And but Florida, to Billy Napier's credit, he repeatedly out recruits his record. And I know I've said this to you a million times. That is a really difficult thing to do. Florida, I want to say we're sitting at around 13 right now. I don't pay attention to rankings in that, it doesn't matter to me if they're 12 or they're 13, but I think with the playoffs, if you can be in the top 10, you can be a playoff contender. It's not like in the past where you needed to consistently be a top 3 team to have a legitimate shot at the national championship, which is what historically, numbers would tell us. I think we're looking at a whole new ball game now, now that we have a 12-team playoff where you just have to be pretty good at recruiting. You don't actually have to be elite in that top 3 spot, but Napier's pretty damn good. And as long as they continue to prove that the turnaround from last season wasn't a fluke, I think this class finishes inside the top 10, which is totally awesome, and I think on track for Florida.
Encouraging. Kevin, I'll give you I have a bulletin first of all. I just got this, all right? Buddy, I have officially invited you to our 4th anniversary year party Monday at Steve's Burgers Grind Grill.
Yep.
And both your guests were invited too.
Yeah, no, I got the email. Yeah, okay. I did. Yep. So I'm there. Yes, I'm there. And
the show. I probably won't, Allie. I don't know if you will or not, but
I got that email and I was like, oh, it's the day school starts.
Yeah, I know. But thank you. Thank you, Freddie. He's great about that. And it is great. Hey, Spurs is a weapon. I mean, look, this is a weapon.
It is.
There are recruits that come in there and go eat a steak and see Steve Spurrier.
Yep.
I mean, really, it's just amazing what they can do with that player. I'm a huge fan of Freddie's. I'm a huge fan of Spurrier's. And I think there's going to be an announcement soon about honoring writers How about that? You remember when the people were writers? Kevin, you know that.
That's right. No, we were talking about this last week.
Yeah. Yeah. So
maybe you'll be on the list. You never know.
Who knows? But the point is, it's exciting that we're going like dinosaurs. We are still around after all, and it's nice to know that there wasn't one time in our lifetimes where the writers had all the information. Now we got nothing, but we used to have it all. But
it's interesting that Ali was talking about recruiting because we're, Dallas Wilson news aside, we're seeing some freshmen kind of flash in practice. I guess Ben Hanks Jr. has done a really nice job the last couple of days, and they're hiring him. And I know Zandamela, redshirt freshman, is another guy too that's coming on in the offensive line. Jaden Woods, I mean, they're speaking about him. So there's going to be some guys as true freshmen that are going to come and step in, and I think.
And that's a huge selling point to kids, in high school right now. Look, you will have the opportunity to play as a true freshman if you earn it, in practice. And that's not the case everywhere. But Napier does a really, really effective job at getting a lot of guys on the field. And I do think that that's really appealing to high school kids.
And now people are starting to say, you don't have to go to the portal, look at Billy Napier.
Exactly.
It's two different philosophies at work here. And you hear and I'm not drinking all the Kool-Aid, don't get me wrong, but you hear comments, Ali, you hear them that you don't usually hear from recruiters like, boy, that feels like home there, things that you want to hear, right? It's not, he's giving me a Lamborghini. I mean, obviously. Yeah. So that's good stuff. All right, guys, we got a few minutes. Let's talk hoops for a second. Kevin? Sure. The conference schedule is brutal. Here it is right here. I won't go through the whole thing. They open on the 3rd of January in Missouri. And then, of course, they go down the schedule. Then they got games at home with LSU, home with Auburn, home with Alabama, home with Kentucky, South Carolina, and then Arkansas, Mississippi State later in the year. That's the home schedule. They're all gunning for Florida. Likely to be number 2 in the preseason polls, Kevin?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they'll be up there. It's them, Houston, and Purdue are probably, you're talking about them in the top 3. But, buddy, the thing that stands out, a lot of weekend games against marquee opponents at the O-Dome, which is going to be nice. I mean, January 10th, Tennessee, you're going to have them on the weekend. Then you've got Auburn, January 24th, Alabama, January 31st, Kentucky on Valentine's Day weekend, February 14th. And unfortunately, there will be no love lost for Denzel Aberdeen in that game. That's going to be
that's a good angle. It's Valentine's Day, but no love lost for you, Denzel.
Yeah, exactly. And Arkansas, February 28th. So, a lot of good games that we closed up against Kentucky. But listen, it's going to be exciting. But if there's a year, Florida won a national championship, they didn't win an SEC championship, believe it or not, which tells you how hard the SEC was last year. I mean, Auburn got them by a game. But if there's a year to win the SEC championship for Florida, I think it's this year. And then you try to build off that and get that second natty. I think that they're in good position, and they're going to go into the season as the best team in the league and take all comers. Teams are going to be, afraid to come into the O'Connell Center, given what Todd has built. And I'm sure all the games will be sold out. The fans will be excited, and it'll be a pretty good atmosphere there.
It's amazing what a year's perspective does on. You got to go back and relive them and watch some games to realize what happened, Ali. If you go back to some of those games, some of the play, even the championship game, the final play, I mean, there's so many good now. The other thing about it is, Kevin, I know you had your book out and all that, and we've got one coming out this fall on the golden season. France has done a great job on it. We've got some wonderful pictures coming out with Chris Spears, and we're going to be able to publish this sometime in the fall. We'll have it out. But the deal is that when you go back and look at it, France has got some information. Think about how the season started, Ali. Mm-hmm. Todd Golden was in hot water, it looked like. I mean, you think, oh, no, this is the worst thing that could have happened, right? How in the world do you get out of one of these deals? Because you never do. And you like to believe the man, but you can't be sure. Sure. You never know what today's, all the stuff we've been hearing about. And it was an awful situation that was so sweet when they won the championship.
Yeah, there was a lot of roadblocks, a lot of distractions, and he did such a good job of just circling the wagons, everybody keeping their, eye on the goal. And it is somewhat astounding what they accomplished given the background of what was going on. And clearly the University of Florida is very comfortable with Todd Golden and the choices that he made. And so I think you two would agree with me because you've been around UF, as well, buddy, way longer than I have, but forever. UF doesn't take gambles with things like that. They are cautious almost to a fault about anything that is not above board. And so, I think they handled the Todd Golden situation, but incredibly well. And I think Todd Golden handled the Todd Golden situation.
Yes, he did.
Well. That could have been such a detrimental distraction to this team, and it wasn't. And again, I'm totally biased because I bleed orange and blue, but it feels like Florida doesn't just win a championship by just dominating the entire season, not having anything going on off the court or off the field. Like, it always takes a little bit of magic. There's always some drama that happens, and it kind of makes it that much sweeter.
I will say, I'm going to say this, Ali, the 06-07 teams, though. I mean, the 07 team had a little bit of weight expectations for the following year, but they mowed over the competition pretty well. Like, they didn't really have as much drama as this past team in 2025 did. It turns out how dominant they were. Yeah.
Had to beat UCLA, right? Who was like the slaying the dragon, or or Goliath or something, and they did. They were able to do that, and so I don't know that it felt in the moment like, oh, this team is just no problems. They're gonna go. I'm picturing like goofy Joakim Noah and people being like, this guy's not gonna amount to anything. What's going on? I don't know. I just feel like
and that's a good character. That's a good characterization, Ali, because I think in 06 they didn't even know what they were doing, right? But they just kind of did it, and then 07 they had to deal more with the weight of expectations following that. Yeah. And this group will feel a little bit of that. It's not everyone coming back, but you will have Condon Hauk and Chinyelu and Micah. You do have some guys coming back from that team that might feel that a little bit. But maybe you hope the new guys like Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland will be impervious to that kind of pressure.
Yeah. Anything on Boogie Fland's surgery?
Well, no, everything is well, and it looks like he's scheduled to come back in the fall in September. Same with AJ Brown, Isaiah Brown's older brother, who's dealing with the shoulder issue. But I think that opened the door, buddy, for some of the younger guards. I heard Cornelius Ingram Jr. I heard that he had a very good camp as well. So see how he's getting.
They had a couple of those, and there's, like I said, there's players we didn't name, we have not mentioned, who will play prominent roles in this football season, without a question. All right, guys, final thoughts. You both got 10 seconds. Give me your feeling about the next couple of weeks of practice and the Gators. Go, Ali.
This feels like, it's almost Christmas Eve. We're so close. We've made it. There's football on our TV, even though it's not great football at this moment. Preseason games have started for the pros, and college football is so close. We made it.
I'm ready, Kevin, aren't you?
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Watching Netflix doc last night, I thought they did a very nice job with that in terms of, the Lagway merch relationship. And you were kind of happy in the end to see that picture of Graham getting drafted as well, with his family and everything that he went through in that season. You kind of forget the struggle and how DJ Lagway handled it too, in a very mature way. And, fingers crossed, you hope that, Lagway will deal with it, whatever adversity he faces this year, and make it through a full season.
Yeah, we said earlier it was a good inside look at things, but they kind of skipped around. And I give them a lot of credit for trying, but they may have probably focused more on the comeback itself. But anyway, great job, guys. Appreciate it. Read Kevin and the Sun and watch Ali's podcast. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it very much.
See you later.
All right,
see
folks.
You guys.
All right, folks. Thank you for watching and listening tonight. I want to go off here with our thanks to folks at Titan MRI, who mentioned their 7th anniversary coming up. Also, they have 3 locations serving in Gainesville, Park Avenue, and now the Millennium Center, and one in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta. They offer the same great customer service. They accept insurance, or you can go through their convenience self-pay plan. Titan MRI and Imaging. Check them out. Thanks, folks. We'll catch you tomorrow night. We'll have Freddie Weeby on here. We'll tell you what's going on. Some good stuff happening at Spurs Grill and Grill. Good night.